Hello, everyone. You are listening to Close Call VC Talk, a sub-series of the Close Call show. Today, we have, yes, yet another very, very interesting guest, Annie. Hi, super happy to have you on the show. One thing I
Super
want to
excited.
mention is, yeah, so you've got a super interesting career. And then one look at your LinkedIn page, it says you're a VC turned operator and VC venture partner turned entrepreneur. So that's an interesting way.
Schizophrenic.
Let's start with your intro and then what is this journey? How did that come about?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And I've been on many podcasts in the past, but not that many where I really share also about my work as the VC coach and also at Borski Fund. So yeah, really happy to share more about that. The majority of my time I currently spend as an operating partner within Borski Fund, a gender lens investment fund out of Amsterdam that invests in seed to Series A gender diverse teams. So that is one thing that I do. And then next to that, as a sort of a side project, I have the VC coach, where I coach venture capital investors to be more aligned, to be better leaders, and to really achieve the goals that they want to set for themselves. So really from a totally different part of the brain. And I really love that. And before I ended up where I am now, I've been in venture capital almost for 15 years now. It's a really long time. And have seen many different funds from the inside, and also have been a founder of a tech startup for about 4 years. But yeah, when I finished studying, I first started working for a corporate VC fund.
I think this is exciting, right? And you've sat on different sides of the table and you absolutely understand what goes on behind the minds of both of these stakeholders. So super interesting. What interests me or what intrigues me is what drew you to the world of venture capital in the first place and what brought you back?
Yeah, I started very early on, like around my early 20s in VC. And what drew me is that I wanted to learn a lot. I was like a sponge. I wanted to see a lot of different companies. And as a VC, you obviously get to see the worst and the best, and you get to see a lot of different things in different companies. So I found that super exciting. But I did see my learning curve flatten out a little at a certain point, where I wanted to have a little bit more challenge and excitement. So around my early 30s, I left VC to start a startup, which was very hard. So after 4 years, I came back to VC with my tail in between my legs. And no, I'm joking. I really enjoyed being a founder, but I also really enjoy now also helping companies. That I would say is the most important thing that drew me back. And I also got headhunted, to be honest, by Simone and Laura, who sort of ambushed me. They said, "Oh, let's have a coffee," and then they said, "Oh, you can work for our fund," and it was just 2 days a week in the beginning as a venture partner. And I was like, okay, I can test it out. I don't know if I want to go back into VC. And now I find
Mhm.
myself almost full time with Borski Fund and like going pretty much all in. So yeah.
That is super cool that someone found you and they wanted to bring you onto the platform because they obviously found value in what you did and what you bring to the table. And my personal opinion is any person who's been on both sides or at least seen a bit of how crazy the startup world is always a better VC. I sometimes think VCs ask gotcha questions like, oh, Meta can build this, Google can build this. Yes, anybody can build anything. So I feel like VCs who come from the operator path or founder entrepreneurship path are much more empathetical to and smarter and ask much more relevant questions, my humble opinion. What I want to ask you about is your role currently, because no one really knows what that means. What does a venture partner or an operating partner mean?
What's the difference? I get
Hmm.
that question a lot. So venture partner, I think it can be a lot of different things. I was recently on a session with, I think it was Unlock VC, who was creating like a playbook for venture partners. And it can be part-time people, full-time people, freelance people on the
Hmm.
payroll. It can be people who work on a specific part
Hmm.
within the fund or do deals as well. So for me, it was a very specific role in the beginning. As a venture partner,
Hmm.
I was focused on deal sourcing, and I was doing that indeed 2 days a week. And they also paid me for that, because I think a lot of venture partners, they get treated really bad. They don't even get paid, and
Hmm.
I would not recommend anybody doing that. So that is one tip I wanted to give. And then as an operating partner, the term comes more from the private equity world, to be honest. And it's really indeed people who have operating experience, who can help portfolio companies with a certain angle that they have experience in. And in all honesty, it's also kind of a flavor of not yet being a full partner, but getting there in my case.
Very interesting. And when you're doing the venture partner role, the message that I got is it's more about sourcing deal, but within the fund itself. And
Mhm.
so that being inside the fund and being paid by the fund is the difference between venture scouting and venture partner. Is that the only difference?
There's a lot of overlap, because we also have a venture scout who's also doing a lot of deal sourcing, but they were not so actively in the team,
Mm.
also part of the deal flow meetings. And when I was deal sourcing as a venture partner within Borski Fund, I was also actually doing a few deals, so actually doing the investment work itself as well, because of my long background also in VC, that I was able to do that as well. So it was a little bit of a flexible role, to be honest, in that sense.
Cool. So let's sort of get in the meat of the podcast, which is the VC career ladder and talking about that.
Mhm.
So in your long journey in the world of venture capital, how have your roles and responsibilities changed or evolved over time? So when you start out as a newbie, as a junior VC versus now what you're doing, what do you think got added onto your plate and what you could say, I'm not going to do this anymore?
Yeah, it's funny, because when I started in VC, I feel no VCs really had like super clear learning paths or like KPIs or like anything arranged, because it was all like one big chaos. And I feel like now, 15 years later, every VC has like a clear like path. Like if you do a deal independently, then you can make this next step. And then if you do this or that, then you can make a promotion again. So yeah, I think there's definitely a clear defined path within most VCs and the KPIs that you need to hit in order to get there. So VCs have professionalized a lot, is what I'm trying to say. And I want to tell a funny story, is that I think that I was not really a good analyst, to be honest. Like, I'm not a very detail oriented person, and I
Mhm.
think analysts should be very detail oriented. And I got that feedback a lot in the beginning of my career, like, Anieke, you're not detail oriented, this kind of thing. And I did a master in finance, so I can do numbers, but I don't know, I just don't get so much energy from spending a lot of time in Excel sheets. And that was required as part of the job at the
Yeah.
beginning. I'm somebody who's naturally more like a connector, who loves going to events, to loves picking up the phone with other partners and other people to source leads, be it like deals or be it LPs or be it talent. And I think that is naturally a role that fits actually way better into a partner. So I guess if you're asking me like what things are you able to outsource now, then it's definitely indeed the Excel sheet modeling. I can of course train the people on the team on this a little bit, but I'm lucky that I don't need to spend so much time anymore. And I really found something that sparks my joy, and I was able to really be a little bit more, how they say, T-shaped in that sense. Yeah, and I'm really happy with that, and I hope that everyone gets to have that. And that's also part of the work that I try to do, of course, with the VC coach, is to really find, okay, what sparks your joy, what is your niche, what are you really good at, and really see, okay, what kind of deals do you really want to do, and what should be on everybody's mind when they think of you, or like when this deal comes by that they think of you, or maybe it's a specific talent or other skill that you have that you can really go deep on. And yeah, I hope to help other people with that as well.
Let's actually talk about that. How did this idea come about?
Yeah, okay, so this is definitely a story that is more personal, and it's very much linked to your close call question, I think, like what's the moment that you struggled? And that was definitely the moment when I was turning about 30 years old. I had been in VC for about 10 years then. I felt my learning curve was really kind of flattening, like I said in the beginning as well, and I wanted to challenge myself. I wasn't entirely sure, do I want to commit myself to 10 years to become a partner? That sounded like such a huge ask in these modern times where everybody switches
Yeah,
a job like every 2 or 3 years, you know?
yeah,
So I wanted to speak about these things with somebody who really knows what they're talking about, and they knows the industry, and they know the struggles and these kind of things. But I couldn't really find a mentor or a coach that could really help me with that specific topic.
hmm
I spoke to the back then partners in the fund about my doubts, and yeah, that didn't work well. So actually, in the end, I ended up leaving there. I did do a coach education to become a certified ICF trained coach, and I think I really want to help the other VCs out there that are struggling with these big life questions as well. Like, do I want to become a partner? Do I want to go
yeah,
to a different fund? Do I even want to stay in VC? Do I maybe want to
yeah,
take also a leap out, and maybe I don't
yeah.
want to stay where I live now? All these like really hard questions to speak about with somebody who has a certain agenda or a certain stake, which is your VC manager,
hmm
right?
hmm
I think it's very important to help those people out there to find the best spot for them, be it in their current fund or anywhere else, because I don't have an agenda in that sense.
I think what you're doing is wonderful, Annie. I don't know the amount of times I would have thought about getting a coach, but it's not about just getting any coach, right? They need to understand the politics of the VC industry to be able to advise you in the right way. So someone who's been an insider, who's sort of taking this, and it's so important, and I hope you talk about this more and more in different platforms. I'm gonna send your LinkedIn to so many of my other friends because what you mentioned is so true, right? As a junior VC who's aspirational or who's got a lot of questions thinking about their career, who do they go and ask for help? And finding mentors, it's if you're lucky, you get a good mentor. Otherwise, you hope that the senior person that you're talking to has vested interest in you to be able to guide you. And most of the time, in my personal experience, I'm constantly questioning myself when I ask for help. Oh, do they think that I'm not good enough to be able to do that? That I'm seeking help, even though the market says seek help, ask and thou shall be given, and all of that.
Yeah.
But then I'm constantly thinking, what do they think? Do they think I'm dumb when I ask this question, when I ask for help? So
Yeah.
absolutely, the pain point is massive, especially for female VCs.
I want to double click on that, what you just said, because that was one of the biggest aha moments I had when I left VC and I worked as a founder, because I learned about this term, which is called the growth mindset. And it basically means that you are learning a lot and you're kind of like enjoying the mindset of learning, and you're kind of failing, but it's okay because it's kind of playful. And that is not what most VCs are like. Like most VCs are like, you need to know your shit because otherwise you'll get like a cross over your
Yeah.
head, you know? Um, and I think that that should really change.
Has there been one thing that you did that really helped you go up the ladder or really helped you be a better investor?
Yeah, I want to answer that question in two ways. So,
hmm
first, I want to really emphasize that career ladder, I already get like a yucky feeling from it, because I learned that careers are not linear going up.
hmm
Sometimes there's indeed a lot of internal politics. there's many partners within the fund that you're at, and it's just not the right time. And you can be as talented and as hardworking and as whatever, but it's just not the right time, right? So I think that is something that I really wanted to emphasize, that maybe it's not a ladder, maybe it is a little bit going
Agreed.
sideways, or maybe you go temporarily out of VC. That is also totally fine. And yeah, that's one point I wanted to make. And now answering your question, like what really helped me to become a better professional, I think network. So I really believe your network is your net worth, and how
Mm-hmm.
you build your network and how you build your reputation and how you build relationships with people. That is so important. That will last on a very long term. And the reason that I'm now at Borski Fund at the spot where I'm at is because 12 years ago or something like that, I don't know, in 2012 it was, I set up a network. It was called Old Girls Network, and I did it for fun. I just wanted to help other women help other women. That was the idea of it. And 12 years later, these ladies that I met through that network 12 years ago, they reach out to me and say, can you please work for our fund? So it's
Wow.
like not an immediate effect, it's like a long-term effect, but it really lasts. And I have the same thing when I once set up this next generation impact investor network. It was really for fun because we wanted to have like nice gatherings with other impact investors across Europe, and we sort of got together with all the EIF impact funds across Europe, somewhere in Europe. So we did one in Amsterdam, we did one in Milan, and one in Paris, and it was super fun to do. But
Mm-hmm.
I secretly sort of built up a really good network from that as well. And I got deals and I got
Lovely.
like really great insights that actually the partners in the fund didn't have. So it was a really, not, yeah, it was a strategic thing to do. I didn't really think about it that much, but it was a natural thing to me because I love building those relationships, and I guess that really helps as well. So I would definitely, yeah, recommend to make a conscious effort for that.
Wow, fantastic. And just thinking about how long it takes for something that you do to sort of get that closure on something that you did. It might not, but it may, and it may come in 10 years or 12 years, who knows? So keep I think you said it beautifully. So whatever gives you joy, so sort of double down on that, and whatever makes you happy, do more of that. Really lovely. You also mentioned something very interesting about politics within funds.
Mhm.
Without going into the nitty-gritties of it, do you also hear it from your coaching clients? And what would be your top 2 or 3 tips for anyone that's entering or that wants to stay in the VC? How should
Mhm.
one go about politics?
Yeah, it's of course I get to hear a lot of the stuff that goes on behind the closed doors because it's a very, like I said, intransparent
Mm-hmm.
community, the community of VCs. And I think there's a few things that I can
Mm-hmm.
give as recommendations. I once had a really good VC partner who always said, like, there's no I in team, and our egos should be left at the front door. So when we win as a fund, we win as a team. And it's not like my deal is better than your deal. Like, we all win because in the end, we all get the same, like, carried interest eventually. Like, obviously, like
Yeah.
everyone has a split, the fund needs to win, and just putting the right people in the right positions, like my win is your win, that kind of thing is that's how everybody should think. And unfortunately not everybody is like that, so we need to kind of work our way around
Yeah.
it. Of course you have like VC funds that can be quite toxic, so I do recommend, if you find yourself dreading going to work, not just one morning, not just one week, but like for weeks on end, please
Mm.
reflect and put yourself out of that situation, because maybe that is just not the right place for you, right? That is one thing. But I think if you think about your own narrative and the kind of deals that you really want to do, like I said, what sparks your joy, then suddenly I think things will also flow a little bit more your way, because
Mm-hmm.
people will know what you're known for, if you know what I mean. So I
Mm-hmm.
think you can work a little bit your way around the politics if there's a narrative that you can built. And it also has to do a lot with trust. So once people see that you can do something, they can trust you as well. And then also internal politics play less of a role. So yeah, those are my tips. So leave the ego at the front door, leave the front door if there's a big ego, own your narrative, and then see what sparks your joy and follow that path.
Super interesting tips. So all of this sort of rests on the basic building block of trust. So try to sort of build that trust and both ways. Do you trust the team? Does the team trust you? Sort of build that, and then the next three recommendations. Cool. And the next question that I have for you is, have you, I mean, you sort of also touched on this, a time where you really felt uncomfortable. But so when you, during your first 15 years before you became an entrepreneur, or even now as a venture partner slash operating partner, have you ever felt unsure or stuck about something? It could be, I really like the founder, but I'm not sure about this deal, or this geography, or this person, or what am I doing with my time? Anything like that. Have you ever felt stuck?
Yeah, so many times, to be honest. Like, even remember waking up once, like in the middle of the night before we were supposed to do a deal, and I just couldn't sleep because, like, I just, that was telling me like something is wrong. Like, I need to speak up, but I don't want to ruin all this work that I've done on this deal. Like, I spent months basically on the DD, and but I think it's so important to speak your truth and to make aligned decisions with your head, because we are VCs. We spend a lot of time in our head, like
Mm-hmm.
calculating, measuring, and testing, and doing all these like very like upper, like everything above the neck we use. But we don't really listen to what does our heart say to us, or what does our gut tell us, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's a lot of VCs that are completely like, oh, you should focus only on the data, only on the data. But I do think that investment is sometimes a little bit more of an art than a science. And
Mm-hmm.
if anything, it's definitely a combination of both looking at data, but also trusting your gut, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not just about the ratio part of it. So yeah, for sure, I felt that, and I've really had some big learning moments where I didn't speak my truth, and then it backfired in the end. I was like, I wish I said like my doubts earlier on, or I knew it. That kind of feelings, like really practice
Mm,
speaking out your doubts, having good discussions about that with the team. And I think as a good investment committee, you want to be able to look at a deal with all the problems with your eyes open. So we are aware this is going on, and this is how we sort of mitigate the risk, and we
mm-hmm.
still want to do
Mm-hmm.
this deal, being aware of it. And you don't want to be in a situation where you sort of hide all the
Yeah.
risks of the deal, and then the deal's done, and then after the deal, oh my god, the management got burned out or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like all these skeletons come out of the closet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really good to have that kind of thing. I actually made a training from the VC coach, which is a crisis management training, and it's
Mm-hmm.
super fun. I have like sort of a quiz where I have all the hottest, biggest crises that I went through in the years that I gone through as a VC, and I always try to prompt someone random in the group, because it's usually a group training, like what would you do in this case, and they try to answer it like in a kind of like a role play kind of game. And then I tell what actually happened. And it ranges from like a company that we invested in, that factory went on fire, to
Mm-hmm.
a data leak, security problem
Ooh.
of a dating app. So it was really sensitive information. And the worst was, of course, like a founder that died actually. So that's terrible. So yeah, there's a lot of crises that I went through, story short, and I wanted to help others also overcome them. That's yeah, a training that I built.
Oh, I'm super happy you mentioned this, and I really wish this becomes the part of mandatory onboarding kit for most VCs, because when a crisis hits, which is often, and every single deal, there's nothing short of panic. There's nothing short of people almost killing each other, but very politely on email. So it is crazy. Wow. That is fantastic and super useful. I'm gonna leave a link to that quiz and your page in the description or show notes so people that are listening to this can sort of check it out. And I really, really please beg a lot of partners to have a budget for this. And I'm sure it's gonna help a lot of junior VCs to perform better. And also, Annie, the thing about flagging things and speaking out if you have any, you have some gut feelings about something, but there's so much fear around, should I speak up now? But this deal, the partner brought in the deal, or that VP brought in the deal. I'm just an associate. I don't know how to say that out without stepping on their toes. It is a real, real, real pain and problem. Um, yeah.
Agree. And it's a muscle you train, right? Like as a junior, and especially in certain cultures. Let's be honest, there's a big cultural difference in different regions where we're from. I'm from the Netherlands, and we tend to be very direct, and we have like a very non-hierarchical culture, I would say, compared to some other more power-oriented society. Yeah, what I actually love when we have, for example, a super fresh new colleague, an intern who's in their first week and dares to speak up, and this person also has a good point, you can just see the partner and the partners looking at each other, or like the other people, like, ooh, and then also kind of liking it, right? That's the kind of setting that you want to create, like psychological safety to speak up so that we can learn together, so that we can have good discussions. So,
Well, the last section for the episode today is almost rapid fire. So I'm going to shoot a few questions at you. So what is one thing? So the first one, what is one thing in venture that frustrates you, but you rarely say out loud?
I am frustrated by the fact that when I was a founder, hated that VCs would not show up on time for the meeting.
Yeah.
They would not show up at all, or they would not respond to my emails. And I would be like, this is so disrespectful, and I don't want to be that VC. But at the same time, my inbox is like overflowing, and it's like sometimes drinking from a fire hose is kind of like the thing that I always say. And it's really hard to sometimes treat the people the way I feel that they should be treated, because they should get the attention that they deserve. But yeah, my time is limited. That is something I don't say out loud.
Well said. Well said. How has your definition of a backable founder changed over time?
Ooh, I think a backable founder, in my perspective, is somebody who has the right experience, but also is learning, is somebody who is resilient and coachable, but not too coachable, if that makes any sense. So with Borski, we also want to invest in founders that maybe are a little bit underrepresented. So you also have to cut them some slack sometimes.
What is your personal value add to the founders?
I would like to challenge that not every investor needs to have a value add, because I know that a lot of investors, they like to sort of pretend that they bring a lot of value next to the bag of cash that they bring. And yes, of course,
Yeah.
that would be great. But what's also very annoying is if founders have to manage all these opinions of all these big ego investors that all want to add value, right? Sometimes you can just also add value by just shutting up, by just being
Yeah.
present. As Borski Fund, we sort of say that we understand female founders better than anyone else, because we exist for them, right? So I think that is, yeah, it's also a bit vague, but also like helping founders structure their future funding rounds, or helping them with strategy. Yes, it's all nice to have, but in the end, I think just being present and seeing how you can help the founder. And sometimes helping the founder is just by not getting in their way also.
So your answer is so rooted in reality because, I mean, yeah, sometimes value add can also be making an introduction. If you can name someone that truly stands out in this industry, a VC that you loved working with.
Yeah, I would say first, like, what makes a good VC, and what's like one skill that maybe people don't really talk about that every good VC has. And I think everybody talks about pattern recognition, right? But nobody really talks about empathy. And I think the ability to feel and really understand what it's like to be in the founder's shoes, what it is like to be in the arena. So as people sometimes say, I think that is very important. And I think great VCs, they don't just see this is missing in the deck, or they can actually intuitively feel where a founder is coming from, where when their eyes lit up, when they're sort of giving lip service, when they're bluffing, and
Mm-hmm.
also what is not being said. And I think this is not about being nice, but it's about getting to the truth. And I think that is really important. And I think ultimately founders, they will choose the VCs that they have a connection and a conviction with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when also the deals happen. And I think I recognized this attitude first when I started working for an fund in Amsterdam called Rubio. It was really a mindset shift for me. And it was really almost working with these kind of people who are more impact driven and also really listening to founders better. I think made me a better person in life as well. And that fund that was started by Willemijn Verloop, she's the founder of War Child, so very impact hard, together with Machteld Groothuis, who comes from private equity, so two female powerhouses. And they really were able to get like really other good partners on board as well, Helmer Schukke and Warner Philips. I work with them a lot. But now also I'm learning again a lot from Simone Brummelhuis and Laura Rosenboom, and also my other partner Bertrand. So I think I have been very fortunate to work with a lot of great people. I've also been unfortunate working with not so great people, but you learn a lot from those bad managers as well, because you're like, okay, this is not the kind of person that I want to be when I
Mm-hmm.
have to manage a portfolio company or people or these kind of things.
I'm so happy you had many, many names to share on good people and best people to work with instead of just one or two. This is such a win. This is such a win. Great. The last question then for the episode is what kind of investor do you not want to become?
Yeah, I told you in the beginning, I'm a schizophrenic investor. I don't want to be a schizophrenic investor, but in a different sense. So I once had a manager, and I won't say names, but this person told me a good investor needs to be schizophrenic. You always need to think that if I turn my back on the founder, that they're gonna put a knife in it, like they're gonna screw you over. So you need to make sure all the deal documentation has everything covered in the worst case scenarios. And of course, from a legal point of view, maybe he's right. From a
Hmm.
human point of view, I do believe that there's this self-fulfilling prophecy. And if your mind already is so distrusting
Yeah.
towards founders, then maybe that's also kind of like creating like this iffy relationship from the beginning, right? I do not want to become the type of person who only trust someone until this person has proven that they are trustworthy,
Mm.
but I want to be the type of person who trusts someone unless proven else way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have seen this. Sometimes some people that sit in a powerful position, they're so driven by fear, so they look at everything from, oh, what if this happens tomorrow? I need to sort of cover that up. I need to cushion that. What if they do this? What if this goes? So much of fear and downside thinking. More almost forget the upside. They almost don't see what the possibilities are. So yeah. Well, on that note, I'm going to call this an episode. Thank you so much for your time and this fresh and honest perspective, grounded in reality. Love the conversation. Thank you.
Yes, and let's end it on a positive note. So let's flip the fear around into what is the possibility, right? So if everybody would think more in an abundance mindset,
Hmm.
and if they could dream, like, where would I want to be in life? And I think that can really bring a better world. So thank you so much for doing this, and I would really love being here and talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you.